And please call roll, establish a quorum.
Salinas Fire District. City of Mill Valley.
Here.
City of San Rafael. City of Larkspur. County of Marin.
Here.
Inverness Fire District. I believe I see Inverness.
Catherine is responding. We can't hear you, Catherine.
Okay, yes, I do see she is here. Kentfield Fire District. Marinwood Community Services District. Muir Beach Community Services District. Novato Fire District.
Here.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District.
Here.
Southern Marin Fire District.
Here.
Stinson Beach Fire District.
Here.
Town of Corte Madera.
Here.
Town of Fairfax.
Here.
Town of Ross.
Here.
Town of San Anselmo. And a quorum is present with now 61.09% of our membership.
Thank you, Allison. And Megan, point of order, do we need to call for public comment prior to closed session?
Yes, we do, please.
Okay, thank you. That's an opportunity for public to comment, please, on items. Well, there is no agenda.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Thank you, Allison. Thanks, public present. So we are moving to a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, labor negotiations. Megan, please help me here. Any further instructions?
Yes, we'll be meeting with the MWPA's labor negotiator, Samantha Zettler, and considering the executive officer and planning and program manager position during the discussion.
Thanks very much. So it's time. Yes. See you soon. Let's see what's happened here.
Wait, do we have to go to a different thing to be closed?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're gonna have to leave this meeting and then go to
okay.
the closed session, and then at 3 you'll
Got
have to go back to this meeting. And
Hold on a
Got
second.
it, got it.
So
Okay.
Mark, I don't have the closed section.
Meeting if it's not being.
Okay, so let's go ahead.
And
Allison.
the announcement is that there was no reportable action taken in closed session.
Yes. So are we ready to call the meeting to order?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Let's see. Allison, will you please call the roll?
Salinas Fire District.
Present.
City of Mill Valley.
Here.
City of San Rafael. City of Larkspur.
Here.
County of Marin.
here.
Inverness Fire District.
Here.
Kentfield Fire District. Marinwood Community Services District. Muir Beach Community Services District.
Here.
Novato Fire District.
Here.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District.
Here.
Southern Marin Fire District.
Here.
Stinson Beach Fire District.
Here.
Town of Corte Madera.
Here.
Town of Fairfax.
Here.
Town of Ross.
Here.
Town of San Anselmo.
Here.
A quorum is present with 71% of the membership.
Thanks very much. I just want to repeat that we are reconvening an open session and there were no reportable actions taken in our closed session. And we'll move on to item 5, which is agenda adjustments. Any requests to adjust the order of the agenda? And I see none. This is time for public expression. Public's welcome to address the board on matters not on the agenda and that are within the jurisdiction of the board. And please be advised that pursuant to government code, the board is not permitted to discuss or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 3 minutes and should be respectful to the community. And again, please all silence your cell phones during the meeting And will you please mute your mics when you're not reporting out? So thank you very much. Public expression.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all in attendance. Mark Brown, this is Executive Officer's report. Thank you, Mark.
Good afternoon, President Goins, board members, and I will try to be brief as possible. However, there is a lot to cover. So first, our fire update. As you all know, we've had several fires, 3 fires basically over the last week or so. The first one being up on Middle Peak at Bridgecrest Road. And that was a car fire that extended into about an acre of vegetation. Location wise, that was actually a good location for a fire like this because under the conditions, the fire wanted to burn uphill. So being at the top of the mountain, there wasn't a lot of room for it to burn. And also location wise, it was just below FAA infrastructure that had defensible space built around it. So the fire basically went into that defensible space that was built around the infrastructure. Rapid response from Marin County Fire and supporting agencies, including CAL FIRE and aircraft. The Graceland fire, excellent coordinated response managed by San Rafael Fire on San Rafael Hill. And I was impressed with the unified command between San Rafael Fire and San Rafael PD. What I would like to point out about the Graceland fire is that it ran into a vegetation management project on the fire road. There had been veg management done along the edges of that fire road. Some of it was funded through San Rafael local money. Some of it was funded by MWPA monies. And the suppression resources said that they saw a dramatic decrease in the fire behavior as the fire approached that fire road. I have some pictures, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to show them, but it shows that the pictures really do show that you could see that fire behavior calm down when it hit that veg management treatment. So I really believe that was a win for veg management work that is going on. And then we had yesterday's fire along the 101 corridor in Cortadera, 1 acre of grass. And guess what? Again, it hit a fire road where veg management work had been performed. We're not 100% sure who funded that work, still tracking that down. But again, veg management work is we're seeing an advantage in that. One of the things I wanted to point out about the Blythedale fire, they're calling it the Blythedale fire because that's where it came, the first reported location was, but obviously it wasn't near Blythedale. It's a good example of the forward-leaning posture that the Marin Fire Service takes on. Since we were going into red flag warnings, they had an additional 5 engines staffed, formed into a task force. And some of the resources in that task force responded and arrived very early in that fire and were able to make a positive impact in the outcome of that fire. And then I keep talking about my philosophy that we really need to focus on the 99% of the fires rather than our 1%. And I think especially the Graceland and the Blythedale fires are a great example because those fires could have impacted homes much faster than fire engines could have gotten to those homes where the fire was impacting. But because of the quality work that had been done, by focusing on these smaller fires, we were able to stop these fires before there was any damage to homes. Looking at the state update is not a pretty picture. There are 6 current fires that have incident management teams assigned, and that's one of the things I tend to look at. If there's an incident management team, that gives an idea of the complexity. Out of those 6 fires, 1.1 million acres are involved, and most contained is 51%, but most of them are 30% or less. And the definition of what a big fire is changing. The smaller fires on this list are 65,000 acres. It used to be 65,000 acres was a huge fire. And now when I'm looking at the list, the smallest one is 65,000 acres when it has 4 incident management teams. But I do want to point out an 80-acre fire that happened in Lake County yesterday. 80 acres hardly ever reaches the media blip, right? Well, dozens of homes were destroyed in that 80-acre fire. And again, that's why I think we really need to focus on the 99% of the fires, because that 80-acre fire is one of the 99% of our fires. And I like to think that good solid vegetation management around those homes could have made a difference. Then looking at county drawdown, just for your information, we still have sufficient resources in the county, but we are supporting the statewide effort. We have 15 engines out of county. Our dozer, one of our crews went out of county for a short time, but they're back. And then 18 of our firefighters are assigned as overhead positions, helping the management of these large fires across the state. And then I'll just wrap up the fire update with a little bit of a philosophy thing that I kind of want to plant a seed on. And that is the difference between concern and fear. And then also lucky versus unlucky. Obviously, all of our residents and all of us need to be concerned with the wildfire situation. But I think between the media and the information that is out there, even information that we are providing, when we talk about the fire behavior, I think we're creating an environment of fear. And people don't always make good decisions in an environment of fear. So I think we need to help people focus on an environment of concern. Lucky versus unlucky. I bet you either many of our board members said this, I probably said it. But over the last 3 fires that we had, I bet you guys heard the term, we were lucky that we caught that fire. We were lucky that fire did not damage anything. And I want to change that mentality a little bit, because lucky, if you're relying on luck, it's almost like there's a feeling of hopelessness, and there isn't a feeling of hopelessness. In the county of Marin, we stop fires 10 acres or less 97% of the time. We stop fires before they damage homes 99+% of the time. So when you have that level of effectiveness, it's no longer luck. It's an effective fire response, and it's effective fire prevention and wildfire mitigation projects that are going on to help us with that. So I really think we need to change that message that we aren't being lucky. We're making our own luck by the work that we're doing and the effective response we have. Going on to our relationships with OneTAM and the fire agencies, that's continuing to expand. We'll be hosting a meeting here probably September, October, bringing together the OneTAM leadership and the fire agency leadership. So we could just continue to work on building those relationships between the land management agencies and the fire agencies. We are closing the books for fiscal year 2021. Elisa Schiffman is working with each of the member agencies' finance staffs to work out the balance of DSPACE monies and local mitigation monies, and we're closing out our core budget. We have taken the comments from your board back in November or December when we worked on our draft finance policies, and Gene Bonander has done a tremendous amount of research, and we have expanded upon our finance policy, specifically our purchasing policy. It is being reviewed at the staff level now. And once that is reviewed, then we'll spin up the finance committee and get the finance committee to get their eyes on updated policies, and then we'll bring it to the full board. At the executive committee, we worked on creating 2 ad hoc subcommittees. One is going to be a strategic oriented subcommittee looking at the implementation, the work plan, and what kind of opportunities and threats, weaknesses and strengths that we have, and so that we can look forward the next few years for our strategy. And then we're also putting together a governance ad hoc subcommittee to help guide how we move people into vice president, president, and overall governance. And as we change from building out the organization governance model to when we are into a sustainable organization governance type model. Bruce and I have been discussing who should be represented on these 2 subcommittees, ad hoc subcommittees. And the executive committee's direction was trying to balance out the size agencies and also the 5 geographical areas. So Bruce will be reaching out to quite a few of you in order to ask if you're willing to participate in those ad hoc subcommittees. Our communication strategy update, we are moving forward pretty quick. Ann and I will be getting an early preview of our new website tomorrow. And built into that website is our project management. And that'll be front and center on the front page. We're pretty excited about it, and we're bringing in several of our partners in making this a seamless process that will include from project development all the way to project end. Our earned media strategies really starting to pay off. As you notice, we've been in the paper and other publications quite a bit. I really liked the D-Space article that Richard Halstead wrote. And I really appreciated that when I reached out to him and asked him to include information about our inspectors being uniformed and never asking for money.
Yep.
So I thought that was an important thing for him to put in for us. I appreciated it. It is bringing up a lot of questions though, and that's that compliance rate and the low numbers of compliance that we're seeing and the concern that we have such low numbers. Well, there's a couple things I think that help provide perspective. Number one, I think we're looking at these with a much more critical eye than a lot of other agencies are across the state. And if you have leaf litter up against your house, technically, that report is coming back as non-compliant. So a high percentage of the quote non-compliance are little things that can be taken care of in a weekend. And then the other piece of perspective I think helps lend towards this is the vast majority of the inspections that are happening right now are homes that have never, ever received these types of evaluations. No one has ever gone to these homes and given them recommendations of what they should do around that house. So if you think about it that way, the compliance rate actually should be low because they haven't been receiving this guidance. And I think the real indicator is as we go forward in the next few years, how much are we able to get our compliance rate to increase? That leads us to metrics. We have our members from the Ops Committee and Advisory Technical Committee working with staff led by Charlotte Jourdain. And our next meeting, our first meeting is actually scheduled for next week. And so we'll start working on taking the goals that your board established, creating the objectives, and then the measurable metrics from those. Something to look forward to for you guys next month is the RFP for our evacuation ingress and egress. We look to bring that final draft to your board next month for issuing later in the either the day or two after your board approves it, with a month and a half filing period, and then we'll vet the applicants in November. Stanford research looking at how the MWPA was built and how we're growing continues. Bruce and I both have interviews with the researchers coming up next week. We have provided a list of who we think the researchers should be interviewing after us. So many of you should look forward to asking to be interviewed. And with that, I'll close out my report and field any questions.
Mark, thanks very much. Very thorough report. Barbara Kohler, please, and Catherine Donahue next.
Mark, thank you. I think the article in the IJ on the D-Space inspections was really good. I don't know how many people actually read the IJ other than me and a few others.
I do.
So, well, but a lot of people don't. And so it might be nice on when you do executive officer's report to actually talk to us about the numbers. But in the compliance rate issues, and I thought it was a great article, you know, Oakland's been doing inspections and issuing citations in the hills since shortly after the Oakland fire. And friends of mine live up there and people pay attention. And it's not that they're getting huge citations. So I think in the future, this board should, maybe not this year, maybe next calendar year, we should start looking at, I don't think it's just that people haven't inspected. It's the view that we're lucky we haven't had a fire. I go around Fairfax and I see stuff that I would be cleaning up. So I think we ought to consider the idea of citations in the future. I did a lot of this kind of work at the Air District, where the first thing was education, and then we moved quickly into citations.
Thank you, Barbara. And this is questions right now, not discussion, but thank you. I think it's well received, and Mark can respond to that.
It's a valid point, and we are going to have to evaluate, and the citations are a local ordinance issue, so it is dependent upon the local the elected officials for the jurisdictions, and it's the $1 million question across the state, whether or not to cite for defensible space.
Thanks, Mark. And I think this is a point for further discussion. It's been clear that it is each member agency is autonomous in this. So this is for you as a member agency to deliberate with your board and make some decisions regarding what your regulations are, what your policies are. So thanks. Let's see, Catherine and then Julie. Oh yeah, Catherine Donahue, Catherine Hiller and Julie McMillan.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your great report. And you talked about your communication with One TAM. And my question is this, where are we with the communications with the state park and the national park system? You know, as we are here in West Marin, that's a very, very important entity to be in communication with. So I just want to put that on your bailiwick to be able to report on those communications.
Well, one TAM actually is comprised of the federal and the state parks as well. So through one TAM, we automatically get those. And a future agenda item today, you'll see how we're even expanding upon that.
Thank you, Catherine. So Catherine Hilliard, please, and then Julie McMillan.
So thank you so much, Mark. The questions I get most frequently by being on this board and also on Southern Marin is people are extremely interested in the fires that are going on all over the state and ours. And the first question they ask me is, who started it? What happened? How did it start? Is there a place you can direct me to get that information? Because I'd like to give an answer, but I think it takes a while to inspect these things, and I'm not quite sure how to answer those questions.
The best site that I usually go to, and if you just Google CAL FIRE current incidents, you'll get a great list of all the incidents that are in the state. If it is a CAL FIRE incident, you can be able to get the cause straight from their site. And usually while the fire is burning, it says under investigation. And then if it's a federal fire, then CAL FIRE will provide a link for you to be able to go to that federal fire. But when it comes to the cause, there really is no one-stop shop for that. And I'll use the 2017 fires in the North Bay as an example. The causes, sprinkled in over the course of 2 or 3 years.
Thank you.
Typically,
yeah, question.
Under investigation is what I see consistently. Great question. Julie McMillan, please.
Thank you, Mark. Just wondering if you could touch on where we are in terms of developing the grant program and offering grants, because that may be more effective than issuing citations to get people to do the work.
Great question.
It is such a great question. As part of, it will be part of Ann's report out during the work update progress report.
What a timely question. Thank you. Questions from the board. Let's move on. And I seeing none then. Public comments on Executive Officer Brown's report.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, attending public. So back to the board. Any further discussion from the board before we move on? Excellent, thank you. Let's move on to consent calendar. The opportunity for the public to comment on the consent calendar items will occur prior to the board's discussion of the calendar. The board may approve the entire consent calendar with one action, or as an alternate, items on the consent calendar may be removed by any board or staff member for separate discussion. So I take public comment on the consent calendar.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Excellent. Board members, anyone like to pull an item for discussion? Barbara.
Item F, basically, I just have a question about what we're spending money on. Do you want me to just ask it?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so on both of the projects, I think they're both good projects, but I asked this question beforehand. I didn't really get an answer, which is, I did not believe that MWPA was supposed to be spending its funds other than core and local work on state lands or federal lands. And both of those projects involve about 23 acres of state lands. So I thought it was really not where we were supposed to expend funds. And so my question is, Do we ask Megan that question?
So yeah, it's a great question, Barbara. I do believe that Executive Officer Brown and Megan have had those discussions. And Megan, do you want to just address this directly, please?
Sure. And we looked at the ordinance language itself, and it allows for funding within the zones, and it does not have any language excluding federal lands from that spending. It just breaks up the county and the jurisdiction into the zones, and just says that projects within the zone can be funded. So there has not been that carve out, at least at the ordinance level, there wasn't.
Okay, I was
And-
asking about state lands, but I'm assuming you're saying both of
yeah.
those.
Yes.
So we would spend our taxpayers' dollars, property taxes on state and federal lands as well.
My reading of the ordinance is that it does fall within those zones and therefore would be permissible.
Yes.
And if I can add, the reason why, as we built the MWPA, even before it was approved, we envisioned projects on public lands, and that's because it has a direct positive impact on our taxpayers.
That's right.
If the project didn't have a positive impact on our taxpayers, then it would be hard to support that. But since it being able to have shaded fuel breaks along the WUI boundary that may be in publicly owned lands, there's a direct impact and a direct positive impact for taxpayers. Another example of how it was envisioned that we would be performing work on public lands is actually built into the Advisory Technical Committee recommendations for who should be or who was recommended in the JPA language to sit as non-voting at-large members, and all the public land ownership agencies were listed with the knowledge that it was because it was very likely we would be performing projects on their lands.
Thank you. Thanks, Barbara, for the question. Megan and Mark for the answer. It's a very valid question, Barbara. We do appreciate it. So besides this item, let's see.
I'll move the consent calendar. Bruce Rodoni.
I'll second.
Move to approve it, and second by Julie. Allison?
Salinas Fire District,
Aye.
City of Mill Valley,
Aye.
City of Larkspur,
Aye.
County of Marin,
Aye.
Inverness Fire District,
Aye.
Muir Beach Community Services District,
Aye.
Novato Fire District,
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District,
Aye.
Southern Marin Fire District,
Aye.
Stinson Beach Fire District,
Aye.
Town of Corte Madera,
Aye.
Town of Fairfax,
Aye.
Town of Ross,
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo.
Aye, couldn't unmute, sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
And the motion passes with 100%.
All right, thank you, board. Thanks all. Let's move on to staff reports. 9A, Alyssa Schiffman, please provide board with a staff report on finances.
Yes, good afternoon. May I share my screen, Bruce?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Mark, are you gonna?
It should be available now.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make this quick, but since it's so rare to be in an organization on the first year, I just wanted to point something out because it's so simple. So let's see. So we're in August, very early time of the year. Looks like core projects the spending is starting off slowly, except for chipper days. And then when we get to the bottom here, the net excess or deficiency. So we have expenditures are 330,000 more than revenues so far this year, which is totally predictable and makes sense. So then if you go down to the statement of net assets, down at the bottom. So now we have the fund balance here. So this is what was left over from last year. Revenues exceeded expenditures by $9.2 million. And in coming years, this year's current excess will be added to that. So the fund balance will keep increasing or decreasing. And so what I put in the report was that we will bring it to the board. The board can decide how to commit these excess funds from last year. And so these are the excess funds, and then it's minus any liabilities that we have. So as we're working on closing out last fiscal year, we've added in the paid time off liability. So that sits here, subtracting from the fund balance. And then we have the current year's net income. In this case, it's a deficiency. So I just wanted to point that out because this hardly ever happens. It's very straightforward this year when that fund balance actually equals what last year was. And that's about all I have to report, and we'll have more for you as we finalize last fiscal year.
Thank you, Allison. So any questions for Allison from the board? And I cannot see the board, what you're sharing screen. There we go. Any questions for thank you, Allison, again. Any questions? No, seeing none. Let's move on to public comment.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Okay, thanks. Back to the board for any discussion. And well done, Allison. Both written and verbal. Thank you very much.
Elisa. Elisa.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, Elisa.
Elisa.
Sorry, Elisa. Oh my gosh. I'm going cross-eyed on you here. Work plan progress update, please. Thank you, Catherine.
All right. Good
And
afternoon.
Prelock, welcome.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's see, we've been pretty busy this past month. We've been working with consultants to continue coordinating with member agencies and partner agencies, such as state parks and national parks, to facilitate environmental compliance for core projects. And all of that coordination includes developing the scope of the projects, developing GIS layers so we can map all those projects, conducting environmental analysis. So for example, determining what, if any, special status species could occur within the project footprints, reaching out to project partners and our neighbors, conducting site visits, consulting with legal counsel, developing environmental compliance documents, and as you've seen, very detailed supporting memos. We're also continuing to develop a manual for member agencies on environmental compliance processes and procedures, templates, communication best practices, and a basic set of best management practices, or what we are calling project design and implementation features. On that subject, we've developed a list of initial standard project design features and implementation practices to incorporate really into pretty much all of our MWPA funded projects wherever they apply, to protect sensitive resources and project areas, comply with all the environmental regulations that we need to, and respond to guidance and suggestions received to date from the Ecologically Sound Practices Group. So we've been working to review all those suggestions from the Ecologically Sound Practices Group for consistency with Measure C and CEQA and other kind of standard protections for resources. And we'll be working on returning those comments back to the Ecologically Sound Practices Group and then coordinating with the Advisory Technical Committee on their review. And then with regard to communicating project information to the public, we've continued to work with consultants and partners, including One TAM, to advance project tracking efforts and take part in conversations around forest health, and to speed up development of a public-facing webpage where the public will be able to see what projects are going on and where they are. We'll be continuing our regular dialogues with interested stakeholders from the Ecologically Sound Practices Group to keep talking about upcoming projects and keep listening to ideas and concerns as we go. With regard to the grant program, the Defensible Space and Home Hardening grants, We've been meeting with member agencies to talk about how to design our grant program and how best to coordinate with all of these other member agencies who also have grant programs. But we found out pretty quickly that our internal capacity was really a limiting factor in order to move this program forward. So we're really happy to announce that we're working with Charlotte Jourdain, who is also helping us roll out Zone Haven and work on metrics, et cetera. And she's agreed to take on the design and initial setup of the grant program. She's going to be working on streamlining and automating a lot of that process. And that'll benefit residents, make it easier, and that'll benefit agency staff as well. For example, we can link application forms and tracking forms to defensible space inspection reports, so we don't have to enter the same information over and over and over again. Regarding environmental compliance during project planning, we've been working with member agencies to really fast track environmental analysis for core projects that combine big public safety benefits with very low potential for environmental effects. So some of those proposals included fire roads and some defensible space work, and that was on our consent calendar today. We'll have more projects probably next month and each month afterwards. We're getting into some of the more complex projects coming up as well. So some of them will have longer timelines, but we're moving forward. In terms of project implementation and continuing that environmental compliance, I've been working with our consultants, including Panorama, Sequoia, and Far Western, who are cultural resources, archaeological consultants, to design a training program and other kind of an overall program to support project implementation. And we'll be supporting member agencies all throughout the process so that they know exactly what to do in order to continue complying with local, state, and federal environmental laws and adhere to all of the project design and implementation features that we're incorporating into our projects. That includes field trainings for vegetation maintenance crews and crew leads. And those are specifically tailored to each of those projects. And they cover sensitive wildlife and plants, cultural resources, erosion, and other topics that are really relevant there. We aim to conduct field trainings in person wherever we can, but we're also finalizing some online training resources in both English and Spanish for crew members who can't attend or they're brought on board, say, after the initial in-person training. We're also providing complete lists of all the project design and implementation features, printed brochures with photos, along with all of those trainings. We finished our first training with Central Marin Fire at the end of July for the Central Marin Zone Evacuation Route Core project. That was on the board's agenda in July. And we're in the planning stage for San Rafael's evacuation route project, and we're working with them on training materials there. And then following the Central Marin Fire training, they started implementing that project. So work is underway now. And that's all I have.
Well, so much in motion. Really wonderful report, and thank you for all that you and Mark are doing in the background. Phenomenal work. Let's take this to the board then for any questions from the board, please. I seeing none. Let's go out. Oh, hold on. Gabe Paulson, please.
Yeah, I just briefly, I wanted to thank both Mark and Anne for, I think we all can just feel amazing energy and a lot of tasks. You know, it's exhausting just to keep up with your notes. It must be more exhausting to do it. I'm really looking forward to the website rollout. I was just wondering, as a brief question, you know, of all the things you listed, you know, what is the most challenging right now? I know that there's a ton of tasks, but, you know, to hear from you in the trenches, like what's actually something that we should be thinking about, you know, that's a you know, particular challenge would be useful. Thank you.
Great
Thanks for
question.
asking that question. That's a great question. You know, some of the challenges that we're facing are the costs associated and the timeline associated with some of the environmental compliance that we'll need to tackle when we start. You know, we've been working on kind of the low-hanging fruit projects, roadside fuel management, defensible space type work, and we'll need to think through the cost and the timeline for environmental compliance for some of the more complex projects, particularly in the coastal zone.
And if I can add, one of the challenges, and I think it's going to be one of the biggest benefits, is the grant program. And that's because we have core grants that are funded throughout the entire JPA. And then we have individual agencies that have grant programs for their local areas, and the intersection of those two. And we feel that residents should be available to take advantage of both of those opportunities. But we don't want people to be able to double bill as well. So there is that balance. And so it's creating the need of a high level of coordination, which could increase the amount of staff time. So Charlotte's really working hard to create a program that decreases the staff time and increases the efficiency and the speed in which residents are going to see the money from our core programs. I don't want to overcommit and underperform, but November could be a date that we can legitimately see the rollout of the grant program. We still have a lot of moving parts. And Charlotte and I have a meeting next week, and then the following week we have a meeting with all of our member agencies. That's when we'll have a better timeline and the true mechanism how we're going to bring it all together. Technology is going to be part of it, but when it comes to the local member agencies, they're up and running with their grant programs now. So if your agency has a grant program, your residents can take advantage of it now. It's how we connect all those that's causing some of the challenges.
Thanks, Gabe. Yes, again.
Yeah, so thanks, Bruce. I'm sorry, one final question I forgot to ask. I don't know if you mentioned Zone Havens, adopt a zone, or that. If you could just speak to that, thank you.
I can cover that. We shot we have two videos that we're producing, one that's outward facing to the public and one that's inward facing to our public safety officials on how to use the system. And the last segment of it was filmed yesterday, and I literally just received an email of the rough draft of the public safety oriented one. The public outreach one is pretty much in the can, and we will be reaching out to all of the public information officers throughout jurisdictions to get that word out really soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks again, Gabe. Catherine Hilliard, please.
I just want to thank you also, Mark. I saw you on YouTube. There was a wonderful thing that says to homeowners, here's what you can do. And it was together with Firewise Marin, was it? Anyway, it was really great. So look for your MWPA on YouTube. The other question I have is, Anne, so I remember we got 111 applications for projects, and I see this as like a conveyor belt. Can you just tell me how you are getting these projects going online? And I mean, how, just give me a progress report on how you're culling out of 111 projects, the ones that are getting going.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I wish I could just move them all forward all at the same time. We did, one of our first questions to a lot of the member agencies was, you know, what are your priorities and what should we be focusing on first? And then we looked at kind of the ease of moving those forward if there are multiple partners and, you know, potential impacts in terms of, you know, natural resources. Those more complex projects are kind of on next in line, but not happening right away. So of those 111, 50 odd projects are core projects. And so not all of them are moving forward right now under the contract with Panorama. So Panorama is contracted to work on core projects. Some of the local projects, member agencies can contract with Panorama as well to get those projects done. But we're focusing on the 50 odd projects and trying to take the low hanging fruit first with the big public benefit and move those as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
huge undertaking. Yeah, thanks very much, Catherine Hilliard. Catherine Donahue, please.
Yes, well, that's an interesting question. Is there some kind of a matrix or a spreadsheet that delineates all these projects and how they, how do we decide what we should do or not? I mean, I'm listening to this and I'm going, I don't know about them. So I'm just wondering if we all have our own projects in mind.
Yeah, if I can respond to that really quickly, I'm not sure if Mark has some more thoughts on that, but generally we're approaching each member agency to see what they think are the most important. And so we're reacting to that. In terms of figuring out on a countywide scale where they all fall, some of that is really, some of the timing depends on member agency staff capacity to provide, say, exact locations, exact project descriptions, things like that. So that affects our timeline. And if staff is ready to jump on it and send us shape files and GIS, then that moves things along a little faster. I think in the future, we're working with Panorama on an improved process to develop a work plan and share priorities well ahead of time, so we can all kind of take a look more strategically about how we're covering kind of the landscape of Marin and addressing things at a regional level. So I think that question is a really good one and something that we will be more prepared to tackle proactively during the next work plan development process.
Thank you.
And if I can add, we do, there is several spreadsheets actually of all of our projects that are outlined, and it will be from that master spreadsheet that automatically gets pulled into not all the information, but that's what will be feeding the project management website, a portion of our website. So that'll help us with duplicative work, because it will just have one master spreadsheet and the appropriate information will be pulled in. And then that is, Ann and I do work hard to make sure that we are not only focusing on one area of the county, that we are focusing throughout all of the area. And for our smaller member agencies, that we're giving additional help to make sure that those projects occur. Speaking of that, our Grizzly Corps members come online next month, and one of them is committed to supporting the smaller agencies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Julie McMillan, please.
Thank you. Mark or Ann, I'm just wondering when you think the website, the new website, will be available for the rest of us.
The contract that we wrote had a 2-month build out time, and we're about almost a month into that 2-month build out.
Couple months out. Thank you very much. So much in motion. And I guess one question is, what mine was, where would I go and when to click on a page to see the status of project? And it sounds like you are indeed a couple of months out from having a public facing website that links to the progress of all these projects. And that's correct, 2 months, couple of months?
I'd say we are, the contract was for 2 months, and we signed that contract a month ago. So the timeline is for 1 month out.
Okay. Then I would just ask the staff capacity question to you and Ann. That one of our recommendations to you is that it's going to be that in the end of the first quarter, you're going to let the board know if you have the capacity that you need to provide the assistance where it's needed, when it's needed, in a timely fashion. So I think my question is, well, it's a question and a comment that, we're asking that question of you, and we want, to be sure that we are here for policy and for support. So just want to make sure that you are on that and you're tracking issues and identifying issues and staff capacity needs that you have, and you're ready to come to us by the end of the first quarter to let us know how you're doing, what your additional supplemental needs may be to help everybody get the job done.
Yeah, to that end, Ann and I have actually already started drafting ideas of what types of positions we need to support, what type of job descriptions, looking at that balance. And additionally, we have an offsite MWPA team meeting, and it's not just Ann and I, it's Ann and I and our 4 primary contractors that we're going to be having an offsite meeting to focus exactly on, not on many items, but that is one of the items that we'll be focusing on.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Ann. David, please.
Yes, it's kind of along the staff capacity question. I'm wondering, Ann, when you've been out in the field and working with some of the member agencies, are you getting a sense about how much of environmental compliance is a skill set that will be absorbed at the local agency so it doesn't all fall up to the MWPA? Or is it just too soon to get a reading on that in terms of how much we may become capable at the local agency level for much of the environmental compliance work, if that makes sense? I'm not sure that you understand the question, but.
Yeah, I think, it varies a lot from one agency to another in terms of kind of current level of experience dealing with all of these complex issues. So we're trying to provide support. We're relying really heavily on our consultants right now to provide that support in the field. And it may be that in the future, in terms of capacity, we start thinking about bringing on somebody who can help provide some of that support through MWPA ongoing when things come up in the field, especially for those member agencies who don't have that internal capacity and or the budget for that. To bring on, a vegetation management specialist or somebody with biological resources training, et cetera. So we'll need to handle that probably on a member by member agency basis, but we're hoping to provide that support ongoing as projects are implemented and as issues come up.
I was kind of wondering how much of that skill set might actually trickle down to the local agency. Not all of it, obviously, but maybe is there some amount that'll ease the bottleneck at the MWPA level?
I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. I think for work in the field, as we conduct trainings on an annual basis with member agencies kind of over and over again, a lot of that knowledge will end up being transferred to the locals who have heard it all time and time again and have some good understanding there. And we're trying to streamline and make easier the environmental compliance process by creating these templates.
Yeah.
So once you've developed a process and a template for roadside fuel management work, as we've done, you can then apply that to other projects as well. You still need to customize according to the natural resources in the area and all of that, but we're trying to make that easier and easier as we go. And so developing that first one is a bit of a lift, but subsequent ones are a lot easier. So yeah, I think it will get easier.
Thank you. And it may be, again, it may be a premature question. You may not have enough experience yet to be able to really know. And then I want to just second what many others have said. Thank you for your terrific work.
Wonderful. Thanks, David. Really wonderful. Board, let's see, we're ready to move on to public comment, please. Yes.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, back to the board again. Any further discussion before we move on? Thank you, everyone, and welcome Rachel and David to our meeting. Both who came in. Wonderful. So let's move on to committee reports. Let's see, we received a report from welcome Rich, Fire Safe Marin, MWPA Ops, and the ATC. So Rich, welcome.
Great, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me. Once again, the report's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just pull out a few highlights from it. This month in August, we'll actually be doing our last webinar before we go to a new format. I think it'll actually be a very exciting one, and a little bit different. We're working with the Marin Center for Independent Living on this, so it's really going to focus very heavily on how the access and functional needs community deals with wildfire disasters, what our role can be in that, whatnot. So it's a little different perspective. I think it'll be very interesting for everybody. I hope you can attend that. Then starting in September, no more webinars. We're going to a new format. It's really a streaming TV show format called Firewatch. I think all of you received in the last day or two an email from us with the promo for it, give you a little sense of it. It's going to be a streaming so that we're not focusing on trying to get people to attend the day of as much as try to watch it at people's leisure, which is the way people seem to digest media these days. And it'll be very fast paced. It's going to be a lot of different segments with a lot of variety in it. It's going to be very focused on action for homeowners, residents, and so forth, so that we can really help them to take simple steps to get themselves very prepared. So I hope you'll take the time to watch it. The next one is our website. It's interesting to hear Mark talk about the website that MWPA is doing. We have been working on ours for months. Maybe ours is a little bit more complicated because it's been around for a while, so it's long, but it has been a lot of work. And we hope that it's going to go live Monday, so we're almost there. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, so once it goes live, it needs a lot of maintenance and a lot of upkeep and a lot of work going forward. But it's going to be much easier to navigate. It has a different look and feel to it, I think a little bit more modern. And then we've gone through and fixed all the problems, all the broken links and this and that, tuned up some of the language and added new content to it. So it is sort of our flagship, over 200,000 visits a year, and we're hoping to get a lot more of those going forward. And then the last thing, just briefly, we're starting a new program. It's called Did You Know? And the way this works is we have been putting out signs to Firewise communities saying for the red flag warning today signs. And we wanted to take advantage of the real estate on those signs by using the back. So our campaign is Did you know? Did you know clean gutters, helps prevent against wildfire and all sorts of other things that are out there. So I won't go into a lot of length, but I think over the next couple of weeks, you'll start seeing those signs because they're designed to be posted on the existing signs that are in the Firewise communities. The metal signs are out there. They're really easy to put up. So they're kind of interesting. You have a little bit different look to things. So keep your eye out for them. They're very colorful, kind of exciting. So with that, the last part of it is the Chipper program is going great. Brendan Devlin is here to answer any questions about it. But once again, I think you have a very comprehensive report on it. And I do hope you'll take the time to look at the attached spreadsheet, which shows what's going on in each of your unique 17 jurisdictions, what's the level of participation, how much material is being picked up and so forth. There's quite a bit of disparity amongst the different jurisdictions. So I think you'll be interested in that. So Brendan and I are both available to take questions.
So I'd like to hold questions, Rich, until we get the other reports and get a complete, all three members can respond. Your work is fantastic. If you don't mind, I'd like to move on then to the, thank you so much. This is great. And we're so excited about all the work you do, but we'd like to move on to ops and ATC, and then we'll open this up to questions.
And I'll give a very brief report out for operations committee. They have not met since our last meeting and they have nothing to report.
Is that an ops ATC combined report?
We've got Ruben for ATC.
Ah, okay. There's Ruben. He just popped in.
Hi there, President Goins and members of the board. Thank you for having me this afternoon. Yeah, so we have not met either since the previous meeting prior to the approval of all the packets. However, I did want to reiterate that we are doing work. As of August 3rd, when bird nesting season kind of ended, we then hit the ground running and started our local mitigation projects and working on our defensible space. We have also have been working with your staff members, both Director Brown and with Ms. Kraylock, on trying to identify members for our metrics so we can identify what those standards are and what we're trying to achieve. For example, are we looking at the number of inspections that we're doing annually, or are we actually looking at the results of those inspections? And so we've identified a member of each operational area. So an ad hoc committee of 5 that will then get together and try to identify, working with Charlotte Jourdain to try to come up with what those metrics are going to be. So that's kind of ongoing as we speak. Also, as Ms. Kraylock had mentioned, we here in Central Marin met with several contractors that we would possibly be working with in the near future with our core funding for evacuation routes, and primarily looking at what the environmental components are, and especially giving them what our expectations are. So that way there aren't any surprises, and then giving them direction that if they come across something that is unclear, that don't hesitate to contact us. Other than that, I have nothing else to report, and I'm open up for any questions if you have any.
Okay, thanks. So board members, we have all 3 folks here, representation. Any board member, any questions, please? Seeing none. Wonderful reports. Thank you. Exciting that it's we're into August, Ruben, and the work is getting done.
I believe
Bruce,
you
I'm
had
not
one
sure that you
hand
had
up.
public comment either.
Megan?
Ms. McEntee had a comment, I believe.
Oh, okay. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I did. You can do public comment. Sure. I was gonna ask. I'm not sure if it'd be Ruben to ask, but I know we're about time for the fire code updates, and I know that we're pretty good in the county about kind of coordinating that. And I wonder, Ruben, if you're the right person to ask about kind of where we are on fire code updates.
Yeah, so the fire code updates will actually, let's see, 19, 20, 21. So yeah, by the end of this year, we usually get together as fire prevention officers and start right around, let's see, middle of the year. Probably should be coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sasha. Great question. Other directors?
Just a compliment.
Catherine Hilliard, please.
Compliment. I watched Firewatch, and it's terrific on YouTube. So I'm really looking forward to it. It gives, as you said, visuals and a lot of information, and all at once and not long. And it helped me. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine and Rich and team. Other questions? I'm seeing none. Let's, can we move this on?
We just need to take public comment, please.
Yes.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, back to the board for any further discussion. Okay, compliments to all. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item 11, informational items. In addition to the minutes and educational items listed on the agenda, does staff have any informational items?
Well, then just as a reminder, Bruce, we do have Todd Lando in the audience or on a panel now for the educational session regarding home evaluations using the DSI application.
So let's see, where are we here? Todd, so
11C, Bruce.
educational sessions. Okay, thank you very much. So Todd, you are on.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you. Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, a little faint.
I'm going to apologize. I'm on the road. I'm the passenger in the vehicle on the road to San Diego, taking my son off to college. So a little change in my presentation ability, but the highlight of this, Mark is going to help me screen share at a point in a minute or two. So what I want to do is give an update on the status of the software development. You guys had a presentation at, I forget if it was their last meeting or one before that, on the software itself. This is the core funded project that we proposed out of the Ross Valley and West Marin zones to develop a software tool and data analysis tool to help us conduct defensible space inspections. The software, this project was approved for core funding. It's well underway. The company Fireside, who we described at that earlier meeting, is actively developing the software, working with us every day, really since about March of this year, to develop this software package. And we're hitting some milestones right now that I think are real important. And I want to let you know some of the challenges we've run into and what we think the timeline going forward is going to look like for this. So we've, as of today, we've just crossed the threshold of 9,000 inspections completed with the software in the Central Marin, Ross Valley, and West Marin MWPA zones. We are using a team, again, just to repeat from the last meeting, we're using a team of 24 seasonal defensible space inspectors and 1 full-time lead, Kathleen Cutter, who most of you know from Fire Safe Marin and now our program. Those 24 seasonal inspectors are broken up into teams of 2, conducting inspections 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts. So they work Monday through Thursday. And we're fielding typically between 6 and 11 teams per day out in the community, knocking on doors, conducting inspections, and importantly, collecting data with the iPad app developed by Fireside to our specifications. We are having fantastic success, in my opinion, reaching the community and really communicating defensible space shortcomings and mitigation measures for residents through the online reporting tool. I would love for everybody to take a look at the MWPA website. If you haven't already followed the link to the Defensible Space Program, we've got an introduction page up and running. This is where homeowners land when they go to view their reports. You can see a good description of the program, some links, and you can actually sort of navigate through the initial steps of the process that a homeowner might when they come to us to view their report. That's at dspace.marinwildfire.org, and the link is very prominent on the MWPA homepage. So we've found through our analysis of the incoming data, which is going to become sort of a full-time job for us, I think, in the next year, a lot of interesting information to parse. But we've found that about 60% of residents are actually opening and viewing their reports. This is the most important metric that we can look at, I think, at this point. So 60% of residents are opening, actively viewing their reports, and they're spending an average of about 7.5 to 8 minutes viewing their online reports. That from a marketing perspective, I'm told from the internet professionals, that's incredible engagement. Very few websites of any kind get essentially their customers engaged for that long. So people are really looking at the details we're providing, spending a lot of time learning about their own defensible space issues on their property, and importantly, following the links to Fire Safe Marin and to outside sources of information to learn how to mitigate the problems that we identify. We're still developing the tools that will help us analyze the data, all of the data that comes in. A lot of important information we're gonna have to help us understand where hotspots of vegetation management, where hotspots of structural hardening issues might exist, help us identify people that might be eligible for grant programs. That Fireside software developer is actively working with Charlotte and Mark Brown right now on integrating the MWPA's upcoming home hardening and defensible space grant programs.
Thanks, Todd. Mark, do you?
Assistant A.
So, Todd, you're breaking up. It sounds like you are, well on the course. You've got some software that you're developed, and you're coming up with some really compelling data and information.
Yeah. Mark, if we have another minute and a half, I'd love it if you could share the video that we produced to explain the process to residents. This is live as of today.
And I got a couple of messages that perhaps sound was not coming across. Is that the case for the rest of you?
Yeah,
So
didn't come through, Mark, but certainly the point.
It's all good.
Yeah, we felt it.
I'll make sure. We'll have a link from the video I'll email the board as well, but I'll also have it on our meetings website.
Thank you.
This is really incredible stuff. Board, any comments, any questions from the board right now? This is really state of the art. David?
Yes, I'm wondering if Todd or Mark, if there's been enough involvement to know with the homeowners. This is a big change that we're going through, and it isn't something that will happen in a year. It's a multi-year, and as we ramp up toward higher compliance with maybe punitive measures, any sense about how big of a change it is? Because we're asking homeowners to take care of things that have been sitting around for 10, 15, 20 years. And I'm wondering if you have any sense about that in terms of, is it super daunting? Is it daunting? Is it something we're going to get our arms around sooner than later? Any read on that, or is it just too soon to ask?
Well, I'll tell you two things on this. So one, that's what we're most interested in. Also, we're definitely giving a lot of information and asking residents to take care of a lot of deferred maintenance, some of which has stacked up for years or decades. The follow-up inspection process is just underway. We're just now conducting our first follow-up inspections. Part of that was really a delay in order for us to get the software fine-tuned to allow follow-up inspections and process them in a way that's fair to the homeowners and manages our system as efficiently as possible. So we're just collecting this data. We will have in say about 30 days, we'll have 30 days of follow-up inspection information, which should give us our first real picture on how much work is being completed, where the challenges are for homeowners, where extra assistance or extra time is needed, and where we need to, maybe apply additional pressure. I don't think any of us want to use the word punitive to describe this process. We really want it to be a cooperative process. And we think that where there are gaps in vegetation management, it's really because of a gap in understanding. And through better education with the homeowners, we're going to get a much better compliance than we see today.
Thank you, Todd. And Bruce, may I just make a quick comment?
Sure, please.
Todd, thank you. The temperament that you display, I'm sure trickles down to the team that's doing the inspections, and I think that's terrific. Thank you for that approach.
Thanks, David. Board members, any other questions about this item? I'm seeing no. This is state of the art, and one of several member agencies are being very aggressive in their inspections and documentation and prescriptions and tracking. I guess my question is this is for Mark and for the ATC, is that ultimately you will all take a look at the efforts that are currently underway. Do we envision a standard that all members will be implementing, or is there, I guess, what's your vision, and what's your vision of the future direction of this?
I would like a standard, and I think the app that's being created will really help focus towards a standard.
Okay.
That being said, it's up to the member agencies, and different communities have different demographics. They receive information, and they take action in different ways. So what I think the consistency piece that's important is the message. How that message is conveyed may be fine-tuned from jurisdiction or even communities within a jurisdiction.
Yeah, and this is feeding the metrics the ATC is fashioning right now. So we need systems that can collect the data and report not just inspections, but compliance. And so anyway, this is great stuff. Thanks very much. Any other questions from the board?
No.
Let's move on to the public, please. Public comments.
First comment will come from Stephen Keys.
Stephen Keys, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'd just like to mention that one of the reasons why the MWPA exists and Measure C passed was because of all of the fires and all the publicity daily, almost hourly on radio and television of the fires that we are facing. I think the timing was right for the MWPA, and it is right now for having aggressive moves. One other thing I'd like to mention is that here in Cascade Canyon in Fairfax, I've had several people ask me if they could hire an inspector to come by and advise them. They're willing to pay for it, so that people I would not expect to want to put out money for things like this. But the awareness and concern about concern, is that Mark's new word, about wildfires has gotten a lot of receptivity, and they were excited to have the inspectors show up. So I don't think we need to be anywhere near as worried as we had been about homeowners resenting somebody coming in and telling them they needed to do something. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Any other members of the comment that have comments? Public?
I'm looking for any additional raised hands from our audience members. And there's no further public comment.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Thank you, public. Thank you, board. Any further discussion? And I see none. Let's move on to item number 12, which is the ATC at-large non-voting membership recommendation. Mark, please.
Yeah, just as some background that's also included in the staff report, the JPA language had the foresight to know that we would need to coordinate with entities, agencies outside of the MWPA, and the founding fathers felt that the best place for that was at the advisory technical committee. They even listed a couple of suggestions of who might best fit into that role. As we mapped out before we went into the planning cycle for the 21-22 work plan, we recommended that the ATC go without the non-voting at-large members so that they can learn about themselves, learn about the process that we were actually creating as they met, and then make recommendations of who should be in those seats as non-voting at-large members. So following that process, the advisory technical committee made the recommendation of a seat being offered towards the National Park Service, California State Parks, Marin Municipal Water District, and Marin County Parks and Open Space, as well as the Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership. When we brought this to the executive committee, we had a very great dialogue, and with the suggestion that rather than one seat for National Park Service, because the Golden Gate National Recreation Area is a very different entity than the Point Reyes National Seashore. So to split them into two and offer one seat to GGNRA, one seat to the Point Reyes National Seashore. And then another great recommendation was a seat for PG&E, and specifically their vegetation management personnel, because they are doing vast amounts of vegetation management throughout the county. And I think this can do two things for us. First of all, we can leverage projects, and second of all, perhaps we can help steer where those projects are going and when those projects are occurring. the process would work that's written in the JPA language is that the board of directors would offer the position to the agency or entity, and then the agency or entity would pick the person from within their agency or entity to attend. And my recommendation to the agencies and entities is one person so that we have consistency, but then have an alternate delegated so that we always have that representation. And like almost 8 months ago, where we had literally people knocking on our door asking to be members of the ATC, non-voting at large, I anticipate there's going to be more requests, especially now that we are offering positions. And staff's recommendation is that we follow the same process we did last time. Let the ATC go through a planning cycle with this batch of non-voting ad hoc members or at-large members.
Right.
And then after that planning cycle, then they can make an informed decision of where there may be gaps. And it's mostly relationship building that this is going to allow. And also information sharing I'll be really blunt how this is going to help. And I'll use Marin County Parks and Open Space because I had the conversation with Matt Corton yesterday. Our fire agencies are super aggressive about projects they want to get done. And so they propose projects without necessarily letting Marin County Parks and Open Space know that they're proposing for a project on their lands. And so that's a little bit of a surprise for parks to see that. And so this type of relationship is going to help with that information sharing.
Thank you, Mark. Fantastic. Yeah, the executive committee has taken an action. Thank you for the report. So board members, any questions in regards to this? I'm seeing none. Thank you so much. Public comment.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Thanks. Back to the board. Any further discussion? I think this is fantastic. This is exactly what you need. You look at doing hazard mitigation work, it has to be on a landscape level, not individual ownerships. And so this is going to foster some of the geographic coordination and multiple landowner coordination. So this is just fantastic. So I think it's time for a roll call, please. We need a motion. Do we need a motion to approve?
So moved. Barbara Kohler.
Barbara Kohler moved.
I second.
David Kimball second, I think. Yes. Allison, please.
Salinas Fire District.
Aye.
City of Mill Valley.
Aye.
City of San Rafael.
Aye.
City of Larkspur.
Aye.
County of Marin.
Aye.
Inverness Fire District.
Abstain.
Muir Beach Community Services District. Muir Beach Community Services District. Novato Fire District.
Is that Novato?
Novato Fire District.
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District.
Aye.
Southern Marin Fire District.
Aye.
Stinson Beach Fire District.
Aye.
Town of Corte Madera.
Aye.
Town of Fairfax.
Aye.
Town of Ross.
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, board. Thanks, ATC, for all your work, and we look forward to the product that comes out of this. Let's move on. Item 13. This is a new item in which board members are being invited to contact Mark Brown and identify issues or policies apparent relative to MWPA updates. And so far there is no one's requested this opportunity at this time. So maybe next month we'll see something on this item. Therefore, we'll move on to item number 14, which is board members request future agenda items. Please, what are your suggestions? I think that's an affirmation that our team is carrying the ball forward. So wonderful. Thanks to everybody. It's 4:26 p.m., 8/19/21. It's my honor and privilege and pleasure to adjourn this meeting. Thanks, everyone. Really wonderful job done. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.